icons, and athletes. I'm Diego Dario, and in tonight's game plan, we'll break down Game 3 of the PBA Commissioner's Cup Finals as Barangay Ginebra grabs the series lead versus the Bay Area Dragons.
We'll also list down the PBA's top locals in the paint to sit out this conference. Don't worry, we're not biased. Isaac Go's not part of it. And we'll see which teams in the NBA our analysts think need to start strong in the new year. Buckle up, sports fans. Let's get in the game. It was only a matter of time before Barangay Ginebra brought out their signature Never Say Die comeback in the PBA Commissioner's Cup Finals. And what a sight it was. Barangay Ginebra edges out the Bay Area Dragons 89-82. Justin Brownlee scored 37 big points, including 19 in the fourth quarter. Scotty Thompson with a double-double, 10 rebounds and 14 points to go along with 4 assists and 4 steals. Ginebra lead the series 2-1. Joining us tonight to discuss Ginebra's Game 3 dub is Terry Firma Jeep Big Man, Isaac Go. Isaac, welcome to the game. You took straight in the intro. I'm so sorry.
You always want to put me in the bad light. Come on, pal.
Of course not. But of course, we have to talk about this series and that win in particular because there was a point in the third quarter, it felt like the game was over. Ginebra were down by 14 points, and yet, as often as it happens, no surprise, a signature NSD run came about. What were your thoughts when you saw that happening?
I've experienced it. When we were, and I was playing with Terra Firma, I think we were up 20 at half, and that just snowballs. You wouldn't think like they score one basket, but once the Never Say Die cheer, the crowd get into it, and once it gets rolling, it just doesn't stop. It just overwhelms you.
I mean, in that particular game, Ginebra just really turned it up a notch on defense. And that forced them to have open shots on the other side. But let's talk about two guys who Coach Tim had New Year's resolutions for. Justin Brownlee, he wanted him to be more aggressive. And Scotty Thompson, he wanted him to be, to not change. Stay the same. And that's what they did in Game 3, Justin Brownlee, Scotty Thompson. Tell us about what you can say about their performances, Isaac.
19 points in the fourth quarter.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Ginebra needed someone to take charge, to come in. Because we know Coach Tim loves to run his offense, loves to use to get the ball moving. But if you have a guy like Justin Brown who can take over, just give him the ball and get out of the way.
And and just to add on to that, sorry Isaac, because I have to mention Scotty Thompson in particular, his rebound, his tip-in to get the lead for Barangay Ginebra was just special.
Yeah, it was special. And what a New Year's resolutions, don't change. When we talk about New Year's resolutions, always what we want to change, what we want to do better. For Scotty, stay the same. And we've seen that because Scotty's a player who doesn't need the ball to impact. And that's what makes him such a great player because if you look at the team, LA is going to hold the ball. Of course, you need to feed the bigs inside, and especially Justin Brownlee. And he can still contribute those kinds of big plays and numbers. That's just something special.
And talking about contributing to the win, I mean, Scotty Thompson made that pass to Jamie Malonzo to basically seal the deal to force that 5-point lead. But let's talk about the X factors, which is C. Stan and Jamie Malonzo. How about their performance contributing to this win for the Barangay Ginebra?
Let's put it out there. C. Stan is having an incredible series. He's been up and down. There's always been that question now that because Japet was there, someone was going to take a backseat, and looks like Christian decided he's gonna jump into the driver's seat beside Justin Brownlee and take charge. He's been coming off the bench. He's been providing that spark, and it's also the defense on Andrew Nicholson, which has been impressive.
And speaking about the defense, so 23 points, which is conference low for Andrew Nicholson. Siyempre, 23 points is big for a local. And maybe for some imports, that's a
I'd take
normal
the 23 points.
Yeah, I'm sure you both would. But
I would take it.
But Isaac, with C-Stan being one of the primary defenders on Andrew Nicholson, just how big is his contribution, not looking at his point total, which, by the way, he had 50.
Because C-Stan's not only a big body out there, and he's kind of awkward when he plays. It's not something you get used to. You can't just scout him and say, you can do this and do that.
Right.
And I experienced that also firsthand, is that the scouting report doesn't do justice in how he plays. It's really something awkward. It's something that you have to get on the floor and play against him to get used to it.
Very unpredictable player is C-Stan. But let's talk about the other player that he was guarding, Andrew Nicholson. He went down with an ankle strain, but said that he was going to be available for Game 4. How do you think this will affect Bay Area's chances to try and tie this series up?
Of course, when you talk about it, now there's that consideration. Do you bring back Miles Powell? Because the initial report was, we're going to stick with Andrew Nicholson all the way. We're going to finish with him. But now there's news that Miles Powell is actually getting healthy. So there's going to be that shift now. And we know from scouting, this Bay Area team plays completely different when they have Andrew Nicholson versus Miles Powell.
Well, Miles Powell, for those who don't remember, did miss out part of the season due to a toe injury. And the MRIs, according to Coach Brian Gorgian, did not look good, and therefore he hasn't played since then. But right now, looking forward to game number 4, Isaac. Any expectations for these two? Because it has been very chippy. Game 1, Game 2, and Game 3. A lot of talks about fouling, a lot of talks about the officiating, but then it has been the same in the sense that it's been grit and grind each and every game.
That's playoff basketball. It's less up and down, more half-court sets, more physicality, and expect it only to keep going higher and higher because you're going in. If you're Bay Area, you want to tie the series. If you're Barangay Ginebra, you want to push it to 3-1.
And lastly, Isaac, what do you see both teams are going to do in terms of adjustments? I'm not saying that, their game plans and all that, but, the past 3 games, the chess match has been amazing between these two coaches. What has the trend been when you saw the games?
It's basically who can get to the free throw line more, who can finish with the physicality, and who can deal with it. Because that is something mental, that's something that's not going to appear in a stat sheet, but we all know that if you watch the game, you can tell.
Yeah, and it's not like Bay Area couldn't do that because in game number 2, they were the more aggressive team, they were the stronger team. And of course, let's see whether or not that will be a big factor in game number 4. Isaac, we're not done with you yet. You bring in the ratings, so you're staying here.
Yeah, we won't let you go yet. Because after the break, we'll talk about the big man in the middle as we list down the top local bigs in the PBA Commissioner's Cup. Stay tuned. You're watching The Game. Welcome back to The Game. We're still joined by Terra Firma Jeep big man Isaac Go, and in honor of the Big Chill, we're listing down some of the top locals in the paint of the Commissioner's Cup. And Isaac, before we go to the players, I want to clarify, are you in this list?
No.
No, okay, you're
Of course
not in this list. Okay.
Paul won't let me put myself
Okay, so
I don't think I would. It's more of like you have too much respect for yourself.
Right,
You have
okay.
to put yourself there.
Okay, Isaac, before we go to the individual players, I want to clarify how impressive it is for a local big to have amazing numbers and have consistent performances.
It's a Commissioner's Cup.
In a Commissioner's Cup where imports are,
Tall.
yeah,
Tall.
imports are tall, right.
Because of course, when you go back to all Filipino, the bigs are expected more to dominate, to provide the numbers. But of course, when these Commissioner's Cup come around and you bring in imports, they pretty much take 40 minutes,
Right.
like 20, 25 rebounds and 20, 25 shots.
Yeah.
So So that shows how impressive it is. That's a lot of chonga. It has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So you have to find a way to still be productive while the import's getting his.
Yeah, and of course, if Isaac had 40 minutes, grabe. I don't know.
I wouldn't survive 40 minutes.
Honesty, I like that. All right, so let's go first with a very obvious pick here. Ito si Junmar Fajardo has been one of the most consistent big man in the PBA. In fact, Hayden Blankley, when we did talk to him, said that he was the one of the guys that they were talking about even after the games because he was just so dominant. Isaac, Junmar Fajardo, is there anything else we can say about this guy?
The only time he's never making this list is if he's hurt.
Yeah.
And I think there's something has changed now with San Miguel in that when they remember how we always think of we're gonna bring in an import doesn't really have to fit the system. Like all the players around will have to probably adjust. But now with San Miguel, when there's now the consideration is how well the import will play with Junmar. They're not anymore gonna get the best talent available. They're not, It's now how is that import gonna complement Junmar Fajardo? And there's only, I think, a couple of guys who have that level of recognition that they have to be considered when selecting their import.
Right, and in terms of, playing with Junmar, what do you think is the kind of import that will fit well with a Junmar Fajardo?
Number one has to be able to space the floor. Junmar loves to command the paint. Junmar takes up a lot of space. And number two is someone who can give him the ball because the import will definitely get the ball a lot. It's funneled through them. And if the import has the ability to pass the ball inside, and that creates more space for Junmar because now there's 4 guys outside instead of 3 guys inside the paint trying to guard it.
Yeah, I get that. And of course, you mentioned also Christian Stan Hardinger, who no recency bias here, but then I think we do have to mention what he's been doing here in the playoffs. You mentioned about his defense a while ago. Numbers, not quite a double-double, but you take a look at Christian and what he's been doing this conference, and defensively, he's been such a big piece for Barangay Ginebra.
And that's why you have to consider it. You have to because when we talk about the best players of the conference, we just don't talk about the regular season. You have to add the playoff basketball where it's more important and the impact is magnified. So 10 points, 7 rebounds, 2.5 may seem casual, but for the fact that he's able to hold his ground against a guy like Andrew Nicholson, just gives Ginebra such a chance to be able to contend in this playoffs.
And how impressive is it for Christian Stan Hardinger to have this kind of a performance this conference, even with a stacked team like Barangay Ginebra? I mean, they have so much talent.
Because you see that 3-headed monster with Japet, Christian, and Brownlee. Then they've been playing Jamie Malonzo at the 4 now sometime.
Yeah.
It's tight. Like if you don't have a good game, someone else is going to come in, and Christian has managed to play better so that Coach Tim, you see that the trust that he's earned from Coach Tim, that he's letting him out there.
Right. Now moving on to the third pick here, Raymond Almazan. Almazan in particular had a great tail end to the conference. In fact, when he went down with an injury that practically spelled doom and gloom here for Meralco, to be completely honest. You take a look at what Raymond Almazan has been doing and his effort, rock and roll talaga.
Rock and roll talaga. And I'm lucky that I have not gotten hit by a Raymond Almazan screen just yet.
You're lucky, Isaac.
10 points,
He's
9...
listening, he's waiting for you.
10 points, 9 rebounds. And I think what is most important is the 4th in offensive rebounding because, Diego, you would know in Coach Norman's system, it's a lot of ball movement, a lot of player movement.
Right.
They don't typically funnel the ball again to a certain player. So having a guy who can produce via the offensive glass, someone who can just be active and put so much pressure on opposing bigs na nakapagod kayo mag-box out na rin eh. So having that guy just helps Meralco's team so much.
And now, on that note, Jegs, I want to ask you about Raymond because obviously you've seen him work up close in practice as well. Just what does he bring to the team? And of course, how does that manifest on the court?
I mean, I think the points are there, the rebounds are there, but I think what's not really mentioned a lot is Raymond's defense. I mean, with the way he plays defense, the way he changes the game is different also. I mean, he just anchors the paint for Meralco. His length, he knows how to use it well, and he doesn't foul that much, which is crucial for a big in the PBA.
You know, right now we have a bit more time, so I want to circle back to Junmar Fajardo because it's impressive that we're mentioning him, considering that he actually missed a part of the conference due to that injury to his throat. He had to get operated on. He basically played like Darth Vader towards the end because he had metal down his throat. And you take a look at what Junmar has been doing here. Is that a further testimony to his talent level, his skill to be able to get through an injury like that and still produce very well towards the end?
This is why Junmar is one of the greats. It's just another additional to his accolade list, another list to what he's done. Because most guys it's difficult to come back from an injury like that, to be physical, to take charge, especially after getting hit like that.
Right.
So for him to come back and still produce, at the similar level before the pre-injury, it just shows how good Junmar Fajardo is and how his place in the PBA history books.
Well, thank you very much for that, Isaac. And for those who love Isaac, you're in for a treat. Because after the break, we'll find out which NBA teams need a clean slate after struggling at the start of the season with Isaac Go. Stay tuned. You're watching The Game. Back, you're watching The Game. There are a few teams that are hoping that the new year brings a fresh start to a struggling season. These are teams that need a boost that hopefully comes sooner rather than later. Joining us to discuss which teams need a clean slate are NBA Philippines All-Star analyst Diego Dario and Isaac Go. Gentlemen, thank you once again for staying on. Simulan muna natin kay Diego kasi pagod na si Isaac eh.
Okay, I'll take you. Sub muna.
Sub muna. All right, so you have a New Year's resolution here, and it is for the Golden State Warriors. What is it and why?
I hope the Golden State Warriors find their groove. I mean, obviously, they're not having the best season so far. I mean, they're the defending champs, and I think they're at 9th place, you know. So they're still in playoff contention, especially in the West, where all the teams are just close to each other when it comes to their wins and their losses. But obviously, Steph Curry's out for Golden State, and they had a slow start. But, you know, as a fan, I want the Golden State Warriors to make it to the playoffs just because like they're the most fun team to watch in my opinion.
Okay.
More than my Trailblazers. I am a Trailblazer fan, but you know the way the Warriors play is just different. It's inspiring.
Yeah.
Just like Steph. I mean, they move the ball very well. They shoot a lot of threes. The pace is very. I mean,
it's quick.
It's very quick. And Draymond's a character. Steph is a character. Even Clay. Clay just had a 50-point game without probably taking more than 40 dribbles in one game. I mean. That's amazing.
Well, you know, it feels very on brand for the Warriors when you take a look at all those accolades. But of course, as we mentioned a while ago, clustered up is the rankings here on the West. So let's move on now to Isaac's New Year's resolution. This one's for the Indiana Pacers. That's right, it's a team you've all been thinking of. But right now, Isaac, bakit nga ba?
If I knew we were gonna do this on air, I would have picked the Utah Jazz. But my New Year's resolution would be for the Indiana Pacers to commit to a direction.
Okay.
Probably the past few years, we've seen Indiana float around the 7th, 8th seed.
Right.
And we thought they were going to contend for the playoffs after hiring Rick Carlisle, a champion coach with Dallas.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they trade Domantas Sabonis for Tyrese Halliburton, which is a build for the future move. So I think there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of news now that, oh, we're going to ship Miles Turner off. We're going to ship Buddy Hield out for picks. And all of a sudden, they're in contention. They're in that alanganin zone talaga that they're not good enough to win, but they're not bad enough to tank. So for me, it would be to commit to a direction and hopefully so that they can build somewhere and Indiana Pacers fans can get something to enjoy about.
Are you an Indiana Pacers fan?
sakto lang.
Oh my goodness. Kaya nga nagulat ako eh.
Random, it's
Oh, so it's a team that everyone's been thinking about. No. All right, so we have a couple of special mentions here. I'm going to have the two gentlemen react to them. Of course, si Chris Newsom, napaka-biased to eh. Chris Newsom says that he wants Denver to stay on top. Jegs, you know this guy is a Denver head.
I mean, I see this guy every day in practice, and Chris Newsom, every time there's a Denver game, he's on his iPad before practice, just tuning in. He's that much of a die-hard Denver fan, and I'm not surprised that Chris Nunu wants Denver to stay on top. They've been having a great season. I mean, that's the question for Nikola Jokic. He's been having MVP seasons, but can they be the top team in the West and in the NBA?
And of course,
they are.
Yeah, of course they are so far, but let's see. Of course, again, as you mentioned, the West really scrambled up in terms of the standings. Up next, you have Coach Willie Wilson. And when we have Coach Willie, he's obviously talking about the Celtics. No, we're talking about the Lakers here. And with Coach Willie, he wants the Lakers to add more shooters. Isaac, that's always been the wish. How do they do
That's
it?
a Christmas wish and a New Year's resolution.
Yeah, he'll probably hoping that for Valentine's too. So I don't know what's happening here.
This shows Coach Willie's love for the Lakers.
Yeah.
But it's just how the roster, and we've seen LeBron with space, and that's what we've seen in the Miami years, the Cleveland years, that he needs shooting. And maybe that first year with LA, they experimented giving a little bit more slashers.
Yeah.
They won the bubble championship, but we've seen now that LeBron is at almost 40 years old, is playing so many minutes, taking so much of a load.
Yeah.
He needs that relief. He needs that shooting so defense don't guard him as much. And I was surprised that Coach Willie did not put for Anthony Davis to get healthy.
Well, you know what? That's actually really interesting.
Is that
as
the
well.
answer? I think that's the answer too.
the
I mean,
answer.
he's been getting crazy numbers too. But Pao, I have a question for you.
Oh my
You have
goodness.
4 New Year's resolutions from me, Isaac, Chris Newsom, and Willie.
Yeah.
You're a Utah Jazz fan.
Yes,
I want to hear your New Year's resolution for your team.
No, I have two actually.
Okay, I have to.
Ooh.
Let's see this. I want to hear it.
Unang-una, Donovan Mitchell never changed. All right.
Just
Kasi
scored
hindi ako
71 by the
bitter. All right. Really scored 71 over and over again.
You
Please
still call
go
him
ahead.
your ex?
Huh?
Still
He's
your
a good
ex?
guy. And then the last one, of course, for the Jazz, obviously, just a bit more consistency. Lost their last 5 games by a combined 15 points. Kaya sana naman, it changes sooner rather than later.
So do you want them to win or do you want them to lose
Wemby.
for
Ganito
Wembanyama
yan eh.
next
Ganito
year?
yan. Oh, you cannot lose enough games at this point to make
tank.
it to that level. Kaya
Okay.
might as well mess up someone's season, right?
Yeah.
And that'll be the most fun that we're probably gonna have. But I don't mind it. All stars in Utah, by the way. Hi, Utah.
Are you gonna go? I mean, I want to.
don't know.
I wanna-
Send Pao to the
I legit
All-Star
don't
game.
know.
Send Pao to the
I don't think so.
All-Star game.
But anyway, that will wrap up that one. But before we go here, on to Coach Willie's thing about getting more shooters. Is it a trade that needs to happen, or is it something else?
The trade deadline's close too. So.
It has to be a trade because the Lakers don't really have that much cap space. They're tight, their hands are tied. So someone has to move. We don't know who, we don't know when, we don't know what picks will go with it. So we'll just have to wait and see.
And who would you have as a shooter if you're the Lakers? I mean, like a lot of names are always going to be thrown about. But then if you had a dream pick to be part
Damian
of the
Lillard?
Oh, no rules?
Damian Lillard?
Isaac guessed it right. I'm a Dame fan, you know.
So you want Dame to go to the Lakers?
Yeah, that's the reason why I'm a Blazers fan, because I'm a Dame fan. So if Dame goes to the Lakers, I mean, it's like 3 championships for Dame.
Our producer Ken is punching the air right now, saying yes, Dame to the Lakers. But that's probably not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. We're sorry for wasting your time with that.
I mean, it's called the fantasy trade for a reason. I mean,
all right, guys. Really, thank you very much. I really appreciate the time. And Isaac, please come on over. You can take the whole show again next time.
Isaac, we appreciate
If you
it.
have me, take over the whole
yeah, for sure, 100%.
Let's change places.
Yeah. All right,
All right, that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm Diego Dario.
Catch us weeknights here on One News, One Sports, and One Sports Plus. I'm Paulo De Rosario, and this has been The Game.